Hi guys, welcome to the channel. This is What If Goku Was in Fairy Tale. Before we start, remember to like and subscribe to help the channel. Also check the description for the creator of the fanfic. Chapter 28. A broken past and quiet rage, and then I'm going to hang him from the ceiling by his toes like a piñata and beat him until each and every last one of my cards has fallen out. Kana vowed. Lucy sighed. The brunette had been ranting almost non-stop from the moment that she had woken up to find her precious tarots missing. Look, we don't really have time to sit around complaining right now. Levy interjected. Right now we need to know if you can track your cards from here or if we need go all the way back to the guild to get some trackers. Yes or no, Kana? Right, sorry. Yeah, I can track them. The cards are tuned to my magic, so I have a general sense of where they are. Great. Figure out which direction and I'll go and rent us a carriage. I don't think that's going to work so well. Levy looked at Kana for a moment before turning to follow her gaze out towards the ocean. A boat then. We need to find someone who can rent us a boat. The two began to look up and down the beach for any sign of a boathouse, leaving Lucy alone to stare at a creaky old dock just a short distance away. Reaching down to her belt, she gently fingered one of her golden keys, toying with an idea. Slowly she stepped forward, walking down the dock as she pulled one of the keys from off of the ring. She looked down at the little piece of gold in her palm, then down at the water beside her. Right. Well, in theory there was no reason this shouldn't work. Open gate of the Waterbearer. Aquarius. A miniature typhoon erupted from the sea and shot 20 feet up straight into the air. Lucy brought up a hand to block the spray of the sea from her eyes as her strongest spirit and longest companion was summoned forth into the mortal world. A beautiful blue-haired mermaid materialized from the water and leveled the blonde with an absolutely frigid glare. How is it that you manage to time your summons so that you always get me when I'm out on a date, you idiot? But I never really call you at the same time, and I never call during the times that you specified that I shouldn't. Maybe you just go on a lot of dates. Did you just imply that I'm easy, you little brat? Lucy immediately started backpedaling in a panic. No, I was just saying that you're super social is all. Maybe if you told me when you might be out with your boyfriend, then I could accommodate your times better. HMPH. That better have been what you meant. Aquarius fingered her water jug menacingly, before giving a frustrated sigh. Alright then, why did you summon me here? For once there doesn't seem anybody here trying to kill us, yet you look haggard enough that you clearly aren't calling me just to catch up. Unless you've been letting yourself go even more than usual, that is. No, I've got a serious problem actually. We were attacked by a bunch of mages and one of my friends has been kidnapped. They took her out to sea on a boat. I was hoping that you could help us get after them. You brought me all the way out here, for transportation. Aquarius hissed angrily, her hair roiling around her head like a hurricane. You chubby little idiot, do I look like a bus to you? If you want to go across the ocean so bad, then go get yourself a boat like a normal person and don't go wasting my time. But, now unless you have something actually important for me, I have a date to get back to. So until next time, stop. Lucy snapped out. Aquarius quirked an eyebrow and stared down at her summoner with an impatient stare. Lucy took a deep breath. Aquarius the water bearer, she began, keeping her voice calm and level. Years ago, when I first summoned you, we made a contract. You made more demands of me than any other spirit before or since. But I accepted them all. You demanded more days off than any other spirit before or since. But I agreed to your terms. I have honored those terms. Now, on this day, in this place, when I have dire need of your help, I have summoned you to fulfill your oath. Aquarius had gone still. Behind Lucy, Levy and Kana were doing their best effort to hide behind each other at the same time. You made a contract. Honor it. Lucy finished, keeping her eyes locked on the spirits. She desperately struggled to keep her emotions off of her face, refusing to let what she was thinking show. I'll leave all my cute clothes to Kana. Levy can have my keys. Natsu can have my mattress. Happy gets nothing. Yes, I did. Lucy blinked in complete surprise. Aquarius was giving her a smile. The mermaid locked eyes with her summoner and floated down so they were face to face. It seems that being around your friends has finally helped you start growing a backbone. I think I'm actually proud. I wasn't sure that this moment would ever happen. It's good to see that you aren't completely useless now. Thanks, I think. What was happening? Of course, if you tell any of the others that this ever happened, I'm going to be forced to deny it. And then, when you least expect it, I'll make you suffer. Right. Got it. Lips are sealed. Good. Now get whoever else is coming so we can get this over with already. At top speed I might even be able to return in time to salvage something of my date. Check. So were you expecting me then? Goku asked, raising his brow. Of course. The man grinned. A good chess master always knows what his opponent will do long before they even have the chance to decide for themselves. The man paused. Though, to be fair, I had been assured that you were no longer an issue. Competent help can be so hard to find these days. In fact, I might not have known you were coming at all if you hadn't been tearing through my associate's operations for the last week. While flying on a yellow cloud, there's a thing called subtlety, you know. Hey, I'll pass. I tried it once and it didn't taste very good. The man tilted his head to the side and examined Goku through narrowed eyes. I suppose you think you're funny. Well, because you are. The man's grin returned. I don't suppose you'd like to work with me, would you? You've torn up 9 different operations of mine, as well as any competitors you may or may not have knocked off. That would make for one hell of a job interview. I have no interest in working for a slaver. No interest in any job at all really. Well, maybe a farmer. Oh, don't worry, I wouldn't work for a slaver either. So it's really convenient that I'm not one. Not a slaver. Goku scoffed. So I suppose all those people I beat up who were definitely slavers pointing me to this tower was just a coincidence. Of course not. The man agreed. Suggesting otherwise would be stupid. I absolutely work with slavers. But not because they provide me with slaves, no, they give me resources. Really? So if I went downstairs to talk to everyone here they would tell me how much they get paid and about their vacation time, not about how they were violently ripped from their homes and are being forced to work here, right? You believe that I would man this tower with slaves? Hey, slaves make for poor pawns. He held up one of the pieces from his chessboard for emphasis. You can't do anything without a solid row of pawns. And slaves? You can never be completely sure whether they will make the move you want them to or if they will decide to throw everything they have against your cause. A slave needs to be kept in either a condition of deep fear or poor health to prevent them from revolting, and even then there is always a risk of some fool inspiring hope. What are you saying? I'm saying that every last person on this tower is here because they want to. Or at least, they think that they want to. Why would you want a slave when you can have a zealot? Every last person here is utterly devoted to my dream of creating a better world. Every last one of them would throw down their lives if it furthered my chances of success. They are so blind, they don't even know of my connections outside of this island at all except that people occasionally show up to drop off food and building materials. So what? You've brainwashed them to work for you. Brainwashing seems like such a harsh term. I have merely convinced them that my way is the best way to a brighter future. But now I believe that I have neglected to introduce myself. Where are my manners? My name is Jellal, the master of the Tower of Heaven. The same tower that you are now trespassing upon. Tell me, why is it that you're here? A friend I met recently asked me to help look for her brother. He was taken as a slave 10 years ago, so I have been looking for him. Jellal just stared at him. What? You've been charging up and down the coast, attacking my associates right, left, and center, to find a boy who disappeared over a decade years ago. Yep. For someone you've only just met. You got it. You make no sense. You're one of those obnoxious players who make all their moves so wildly and idiotically that the people using actual strategy have no idea what you are up to. But you knew I was coming. I knew you were coming because you seem to be allergic to the concept of stealth. Nothing but destruction in your wake as you tear apart everything in your way. Sure, that's one way to phrase it. But the way I see it, I'm ripping down a massive organization that causes nothing but pain and suffering to every person who encounters it. Maybe you've convinced everyone here that everything is fine, but I'm sure that the dozens of others you've helped steal from their homes would disagree. That's because they don't know any better. They don't know the real monster of this story, the one who is responsible for all of the suffering I was forced to cause as a result of her actions 10 years ago. If it wasn't for her I never would have needed to stoop so low in order to finish construction. Goku frowned at the mention of the date and motioned for Jellal to continue. Yes, interesting isn't it how it all comes back to that time, isn't it? Quite a lot of exciting things happened 10 years ago. 10 years the original owners of this tower took in their last batch of slaves, the entire population down to the last person was either taken or killed. Or at least, so I thought. What you've told me makes me suspect that might not necessarily be the case. This group include both myself as well as the girl who almost ruined this place. At first I hated my time here and constantly looked for escape. 10 years ago massive rebellion dethroned the rulers and sapped up almost every last resource this place had available in the crossfire. The situation was poor, however it was what opened my eyes to the true potential of this tower. I understand it now better than those original fools ever could have. With this tower, not only will I bring back the greatest sorcerer in all of existence, I will unleash a power that will cleanse all of the darkness from this world. You're insane. Yes, that's what all narrow-minded fools say about visionaries, isn't it? The one who betrayed me thought I was crazy too. When I realized all the good we could do from here and asked her to join me, she rebuffed my request and fled. Fled straight to some pathetic little hillbilly living in the middle of the forest. Wait, what? She left all her friends behind, decided that she was too good for us. That she was above us. She never even tried to see the potential of this place, she was completely blind to the brighter future. Such a person, they deserve no place in the new world that I shall unleash. But I admit, I still hold a soft spot for her, enough that I had to include her in some way. So I decided that if she wasn't going to be a part of the revolution, then at the very least she would be the catalyst. Everything that has happened over the last decade, every last misfortune that fell upon the people here and those taken outside, the blame for all of it can be laid squarely at her feet. At the very least she must pay for her sins by ushering in the new age. What the hell do you want with her? Catching on then? Know who I'm talking about? It's ironic, isn't it? Without her, none of us would be here today. I never would have gained my new perspective, you likely would never have crawled out of whatever cave she dragged you from, and this girl of yours wouldn't have been able to hunt for her brother and send you my way. Even this confrontation right now would be impossible without her influence. In just a few hours though, all of her wrongs shall be balanced out. What did you do, damn it? Fine, fine, I'll spell it out for you. By the end of the day Erza Scarlet shall be dead. Damn it. Just. Damn it. Any chance of a peaceful resolution flew out the window the second Goku burst into the top floor of the tower. Erza knew this, yet she still couldn't bring herself to attack Simon or any of the others around her. No matter what they thought about her, she still cared about them and she owed them for leaving them behind. So as they grabbed her and started dragging her into the tower, despite what she knew had to be happening up at the top, she still couldn't convince herself to attack them. So she waited as they dragged her up through the docks area and to the stairs, taking her up the familiar path to the sleeping quarters. Sho kept shooting her looks that seemed equal parts hopeful and terrified the whole way, but everyone else seemed to be completely ignoring her existence. That was fine with her. The less they wanted to do with her, the less likely they were to stick around once they locked her away in whatever dungeon they had prepared for her, and the quicker she could escape to determine what was happening. Finally the group came up to a dark wooden door and Simon began fishing around on his belt for a key. When the door opened, Erza marched right in and walked straight over towards the large column that filled the center of the room. She held up her arms calmly, waiting for Simon to link her handcuffs to the many loops of chain that were sprawled haphazardly around the room. Instead though, Simon motioned for the rest of the group to enter the room as well. The three exchanged quick glances before they entered the room as well, allowing Simon to close the door behind them. The muscled teen looked around the room, meeting the eye of each and every occupant before his posture collapsed. With a heavy groan, Simon leaned back against the cold brick wall. All of the tension and anger bleeding out and leaving behind a weary, exhausted man. Erza is innocent. The room was absolutely silent. Jellal is working with the same slaving trading organization that brought us here. That one got a reaction. But that's impossible. Jellal is the one that helped us after she destroyed all of the boats and left us trapped here. He would never do something like that. Sho stuttered out. No. That lie didn't make sense when we first heard it and it doesn't make sense now. Think. Erza had every reason to want to get us off of this island and absolutely no motive for us to stay. She was the one that was trying to get us all off of this island to begin with. Jellal was the one who wanted to stay to continue working on this damn thing. He was the only one who would get something out of this. But he wouldn't do that to us, would he? Jellal loves us, he's been taking care of us for years. We're his family. Why would you accuse him of something like that? That's not Jellal. And what has happened here is not only his fault. The words were spoken barely above a whisper, but they contained such venom that the group flinched away from Erza. You remember how he took the blame for me, right? How he declared himself the leader of our group so that the rest of us wouldn't suffer. When we finally managed to break the guards' defensive line and began to clear the tower, the the very first thing I did was charge straight in after him. But when I reached him he was different. Darker. He utterly crushed the two mages that were guarding him with a power that I had never seen before. He was completely beyond my level, beyond the level of every single person in the building. He told me that he wanted to rebuild everything, that he saw the potential of this place and wanted to complete it. He said that he would make sure that nobody would leave, and that everyone here would come to understand his goals. When he asked me to join him I refused and I couldn't do anything. I fled like a coward and I left you all here to suffer in my stead. I was going to try and get help but then he said he had ways of watching me, that if I ever told anyone about what happened here he would kill you all. I'm so sorry I didn't know what to do. I couldn't think of any way to help you. The group stayed quiet for a moment, staring passively as tears started to leak down the redhead's face. To everyone's surprise though, it was Wally who first chose to speak up. You're still dandy Erza. If that's all true then we can't blame you for any of this. But now, I have to ask, Wally slowly turned to face Simon, his face completely deadpan. If you knew that Jellal had been corrupted ever since he took power, why haven't you ever mentioned that to us? I was worried that you would not believe me and that Jellal would find out that I was onto him. But, we wouldn't have just turned you in. If you said you have proof we would have listened. Sho stuttered. Yeah, or if you were really that worried about Jellal finding out why didn't you tell us on the boat that Erza was innocent? Miliana cut in. Wait, why did we kidnap her at all then? We could have just asked her for help or something when we found her instead of beating up all her friends. Oh crap, we beat up all her friends. The catgirl continued. I figured that by leaving her friends behind it would get them to come after us. That way they would pursue us and hopefully help in freeing everyone. Simon's explanation was met with blank stares all around. I am a dandy man. Wally drawled out. As a dandy man, I can tell what is dandy and what isn't. This plan of yours, it is not dandy in the least. You chose to wait for 10 years until this place was practically complete before mentioning to anyone that anything was wrong, completely failing to trust that we might believe you. Then you had us smack around a group of girls, hoping that they could somehow track us out here without any sort of indication of where we went instead of just asking said girls and their guild to help us out. And to top it all off you let us believe that one of our best friends had turned her back on us and never tried to tell us any different. That's not dandy Simon. That's not dandy at all. All in favor of blaming Simon instead of Erza. Miliana chirped. 3 hands shot into the air. Great. The motion carries. So, I guess this is why Jellal and Erza never let Simon help too much in any of the escape plans then. Sho asked timidly. Simon just stared dumbly at them all. I never actually thought about it like that, right? So Erza, what's the plan then? Erza had been watching the scene before her in a state of numb shock for the last several moments and it took her a while to realize that she had been asked a question. When the thought finally processed through her brain she could only shake her head incredulously. You really trust me to be in charge just like that after what I just told you? Well, I think we've already established that Simon isn't dandy enough to be in charge, and the rest of us are no good as leaders. If we're going to trust someone to sort this out, then you're the best one for the job. Thank you. Erza gave the group a wide, genuine smile before she took a deep breath to collect her thoughts. The person who broke into the top of the tower earlier is named Goku. He is one of the single strongest mages of my guild and knowing his habits he likely scouted out the room with the strongest people in the tower as his entry point. The fact that there haven't been any giant explosions and that the building still seems to be mostly in one piece means that Jellal hasn't pissed him off enough yet. We don't have much time before that changes. I'd say we have about 5 minutes to evacuate as many people as we can before the fight will start up and he will need assistance. Hey Erza, can your friend win? Sho asked. Erza furrowed her brow in thought, trying to remember just what Jellal's abilities had felt like all those years ago. I don't know. It's been so long since I've seen him and I have no way to gauge how strong he has become, I just don't know. The room was quiet for a moment before Miliana perked up. Alright, you heard the lady team, let's go. Miliana cheered before grabbing Sho and dashing out the door. Sighing at her antics Wally and Simon quickly dashed out the door as well, leaving Erza by herself. The redhead looked down the hallway out the door then down at the chains still secured around her wrists. Right. Requip. The 3 separate shrieks formed a perfect harmony as the fairies clung to each other in the boat. Aquarius had waited until all three had gotten aboard a tiny dinghy and then immediately summoned a wave that sent it racing across the ocean. Hey, Levy shouted, pulling her face out of Lucy's hair and peering forward, I see a tower. We're almost there. Are we slowing down at all? Lucy called, her face pressed firmly into Kana's shoulder. I'm too afraid to look. No, I knew that fish lady was gonna kill us. Kana shrieked, her arm wrapped tightly around Lucy. Why did you have to call her out like that, Lou? I don't know. For the sake of my dignity as a summoner. Screw dignity, we're gonna die. Brace for impact. Levy screamed. The three clutched each other even tighter and screamed. The wave carrying the boat came to a sudden impossible stop an inch above the shore, sending the three flying out of the ship and sprawling on the sand in a tangle of limbs, pain, and curses. Ha! Aquarius' voice echoed from the ocean. Nailed it. Hate the fishy lady. Kana mumbled through a mouthful of sand. Hate her lots. Mr. Poogerg. What's that, Lou? Me. Oh wow. Kana laughed. Somehow Lucy's hair had got tangled up in the card mage's swimsuit, locking the summoner's face against her chest. How does that even happen? Kana grabbed a fistful of Lucy's hair and gently freed her. You okay, Lulu? Yeah, Lucy sighed. Well, we're here and we didn't drown. What now? We should probably deal with them. Levy said, already on her feet and pointing. Lucy followed her finger and saw a bunch of guys in creepy ropes brandishing weapons and charging at them. Wonderful, there's a welcoming committee. The fairies readied themselves for the coming fight, but before they could cast a spell there was a flash of light and the charging men disappeared. Where they had been, there were now playing cards scattered across the sand. Lucy blinked. Kana, did you do that? I don't think so. Kana replied uncertainly, approaching one of the cards and nudging it with her toe. I don't think I can trap people in cards. Maybe I just leveled up or something. Are you three alright? A voice called. The fairies looked up to see a young man running down the beach, a young man with white hair. Erza said you would come. You. Kana exploded into motion, tackling the boy to the ground in fury. Gimme back my cards, you little brat, she demanded, punching him. Ow. No. Wait. Stop. This is a misunderstanding, we're not enemies. The boy protested, struggling beneath Kana's rain of blows. Oh sure. Because stealing stuff off people when they're unconscious is something friends do. Get off of show. A blur of brown flashed across the beach and hit Kana, throwing her off the boy. Lucy blinked as a young girl helped the card thief off the ground. Are you okay, show? The mean people didn't hurt you, did they? Not too badly. The boy, show apparently, wheezed. Miliana, these are Erza's friends. They are. Miliana promptly dropped show and turned to look at them. Hi there, Erza's friends, she waved, beaming. Lucy couldn't help but notice that the girl had two cat ears, in addition to her regular ears. We're also Erza's friends, the girl finished. Lucy, do you have any idea what's going on? Levy muttered, leaning towards her. I thought I did, but it's gone now. Lucy replied. Do we fight them? Now, let's not fight. A third voice said. There was a staccato of thumps as a bunch of cubes rained down on the sand and formed into an equally blocky man. It's just not dandy to fight over silly misunderstandings. He tipped his hat to them. Ladies. Hey wait, aren't you the guy who shot us? Kana demanded, getting back to her feet. The cube man frowned. It's not dandy to lie, so I will admit it's true. I did hit you with my tranquilizer cube. He bowed. I must apologize, ladies, it was most rude of me to do so. So, you didn't mean to attack us? Levy asked. Oh no, I did. It's just we've now found out that we aren't actually enemies. We were tricked into kidnapping Erza and now we're trying to fix our mistake. Levy and Lucy looked at each other. Trap? Lucy asked. Trap. Levy agreed. As one, they raised their key and quill. Wait, a fourth voice interrupted. A giant of a man with a metal jaw materialized in front of the cube man. Another. Kana groaned. Are there any more weirdos that are going to pop out of nowhere? They can just go ahead and come out now. Nope. The cat girl replied. This is all of us. We aren't weirdos, Millie, said Sho. I dunno, when we went to that resort place, I got the feeling we kinda stood out. Real dandies stand out and above all the other boorish non-dandy folk. The cube man cut in, nodding sagely. Enough, said the giant. We don't have time to argue over this. Erza said we need to evacuate the island. Oh sure, and I like being sober. Kana snorted. You guys are the dumbest group of bad guys I've ever seen. If you really want me to believe you, then gimme back my cards. Fair enough. The giant nodded. Show. Give her back her cards. Wait, really? Yes, really. The giant nodded towards Sho, who sheepishly pulled out a deck of cards. Slowly he walked forward and held them out. Kana snatched them and furiously began to count them. Lucy and Levi shared another look. This wasn't going at all how they had expected. What now? Lucy muttered. If you ladies would be willing to follow us, said the giant, we'll take you to Erza and explain everything. But we need to work quickly. I believe we are under a time limit. Okay, fine, Lucy muttered, the fight draining from her. This situation was rapidly becoming too stupid to deal with. Anything to make it start making sense. The second Jellal had finished speaking, the rest of the power signatures around the room began to move. The nearest one was also the weakest, hiding in the shadows just to the side of where Jellal was sitting. He was introduced to a trio of key blasts before he even realized that he was under attack, and Goku was already turning away to meet the next threat. A massive Alman with a jetpack strapped to his back came rocketing out from behind, and Goku was forced to drop to the ground to avoid being body checked across the room. Rolling sideways to avoid a sword slash from the third assailant, Goku whipped out the power pole to the robed girl in the side of the head. The woman rolled back out of the way of the follow-up swing before dashing to form up with her two compatriots. Jellal meanwhile just watched from his chair with an amused smirk at the display. I've heard he has the ability to sense people. From his reaction I can see that it is true. Don't bother with stealth attacks, he'll just brush them off, the man advised. Also, try to keep the collateral damage to a minimum, will you? I happen to like my throne room and would like to keep it intact. The figure from the shadows stepped up to join the woman and the owl man, brushing ash off of his smoldering cloak as he did so. The damaged piece of cloth actually disintegrated under the attempts to clean it, leaving the man in some sort of goth rocker outfit, complete with makeup and an electric guitar. The man started banging his head to an internal beat, whipping his hair around madly with manic delight. Then with a heavy strum on his instrument, his hair shot forward like an array of whips. Goku tumbled out of the way of the first few attacks before he brought the power pole before him once more. With the flick of his wrist he sent the staff spinning like a cyclone, flicking away the tangles of hair with ease. The guitarist smiled at the display and licked his lips before sending his hair at the spinning shield once more. This time the whips launched themselves at the pole itself, tying themselves up along its length and forcing it to stay in place. Goku strained his muscles trying to get the rotation back up again, all the while ducking and dodging as even more whips cracked around his head. Snarling, he planted his feet and twisted his body around, throwing his full weight into the motion. The sudden tug caught the musician off balance and he took a few unstable steps forward. Goku immediately capitalized, launching himself forward at blistering speeds to knock the man backwards straight into his teammates. The woman caught him in midair with one hand before casually dumping him to the side. The woman tittered, eyeing Goku with excitement. Oh, how wonderful, a challenger has appeared, he shall be all mine. She brushed aside her companions, clearly telling them to stay out of it. Actually, that's probably for the best, Jellal commented, shuffling some of the pieces on the chessboard left and right. It seems that my old friends have betrayed me and allied themselves with some new trespassers. Surprise, surprise. So if you are so keen on killing this one yourself, then I believe that your friends can best spend their time handling the rest of the rabble. The rocker and the owl looked to the woman for approval. Upon receiving a curt nod, the pair bolted, heading straight for the stairs down to the rest of the tower. The sword's mistress nodded to herself as she absently brushed a strand of pink hair behind her ear. Then she leveled her sword towards the warrior with a sly grin. I already heard your introduction from earlier, so I suppose that I should at least have the courtesy of doing the same. I am the leader of the Trinity Raven, the greatest assassination team in Death's Head Caucus. The name is Ikaruga and this is my blade Mugetsu Ryu. Many have fallen to its edge and no defense has ever stopped its bite. So many have fallen to my first swing, I haven't had any fights long enough to actually enjoy in quite a long time. I truly hope that you will be able to entertain me. She bowed. Hey, that's funny. I just met another girl with a sword that was supposed to be able to cut through anything. I wonder what would happen if you two met one another. The first blow nearly cut Goku in half. In 1 second the two were locking stares and the next she was behind him, blade already in motion. Goku tried to throw himself forward out of the weapon's path but not quickly enough to completely evade the blow. As the weapon carved a bloody furrow into his back he choked back a cry of pain and swung around to unleash a barrage of ki blasts. Ikaruga batted the attacks aside with ease and then charged forward with a straight thrust aimed straight at his heart. The power pole rose to parry the strike, then the other end came around to crash into the Pinket's gut. Ikaruga grunted as the blow landed home and a crazy grin formed on her face. Her blade flashed again only to be knocked aside by the staff once more. Goku's retaliatory strike was easily dodged this time as the woman began to pick up speed, slowly driving him back across the room. The equal exchange of strikes quickly fell away to a desperate defense as Goku knocked aside slash after slash with such fierce intensity the floor beneath him began to crack with each step. Ikaruga's smile just continued to get wider and wider the longer that Goku was able to hold her off and survive her sword. The tipping point came at a moment that neither expected. Ikaruga unleashed a downward strike straight for the top of Goku's head. Goku's previous block had left his weapon in a slightly awkward position to counter the blow with another parry, so instead he brought the weapon straight up, horizontal to the attack to try and block. The sword flashed through the air and met the magical staff, and sheared it in half. For a moment, everything stopped. Then a sudden blast of reddish energy burst from the weapon, throwing the combatants away. Goku got to his knees, staring in disbelief at the two pieces of wood clutched in either hand. As he watched, the red bled out of it, leaving behind a pair of ordinary sticks. "Grandpa Gohan," he murmured, his eyes welling with tears. Oh dear, such sorrow, a memento of the past, lost and forgotten. Anything that he might have wanted to say was swallowed up into a choked grunt of rage. Dead eyes rose from the ruined weapon to meet the gaze of the still grinning assassin as she sauntered her way back to the middle of the room. So worn and broken, a face of such great lament, you shall join it soon. Goku failed to respond. His right hand slowly curled into a fist and rose to the side of his hip. With no visible effort he focused his power and willed to life a massive white aura that surrounded his entire body. Tiny flecks of red occasionally danced into view around the field of energy, and the air around the room began to swirl around the room as though a great wind had been unleashed within the enclosed room. Ikaruga moved to charge forwards, but the instant she collided with the surging power she was blown backwards across the room. Twisting in midair she managed to land on her feet and brought the blade up in front of her into a defensive stance. Just as quickly as it had appeared, the whirling surge of energy seemed to fade. The room quieted and all size of the disturbance had vanished. Then Ikaruga took note of Goku's fist. His right hand had not moved from its position, but now it was wreathed in a golden glow. The sword's mistress narrowed her eyes and licked her lips. Goku stood passively watching her. She slid one foot slowly forward and brought the blade up into the air. Goku didn't even twitch. Ikaruga blasted across the room at max speed with every intention of slicing her opponent's head clean off. It wasn't until she was just a few feet away that Goku finally reacted and she realized just how much danger she was in. Dragon Fist. The glowing hand slammed into Ikaruga's sword and shattered it instantly on contact. The force unleashed from the collision shattered every piece of glass on the tower and knocked the majority of the occupants off their feet and sent them bouncing across the ground. The real danger though came from the energy that had suddenly been unleashed. The maw of a massive golden dragon burst forwards and collided with Ikaruga with such force that it carried her straight across the room and through the wall. Hundreds of feet above the sea, the assassin could do nothing but scream in pain right up until the moment the attack finally punched straight through her chest and vaporized her heart and lungs. The blood that was shot into the air instantly boiled as it came into contact with the intense energy, and by the time Ikaruga's body finally hit the water below, she was already long dead. Goku slowly turned to face Jellal even as the blue-haired sorcerer finally rose from his throne. Last chance to surrender. Thanks for listening. If you want the next part of this video, be sure to like, subscribe and comment and hit that bell notification. See you next time.